in the bomba tradition, I was one of the first women to kind of break that kind of veil, and now there's more women primo players. My name's Denise Solis. I am a drummer for the tradition of bomba from Puerto Rico. In particular, I play the lead drum, which is called the primo or subidor. I'll talk a little bit about what that is in a minute, but been playing drums and learning as a student, and also started teaching a couple of years ago for about uh, 14, 16 years. I started learning around 2002. My love of music started as a child. I was born in Texas. My family comes from Mexico. My mom was a teenage mom, or a younger mom on the younger side, and she um, fell in love with a musician. My biological father was a very well known musician who came from humble roots in Mexico, and played the accordion and had a group. Him and his brother were self taught musicians. My mom had me, and her and my father didn't work out, my biological father. So I didn't grow up knowing him or having a relationship with him. But I think the biggest gift he gave me was a love of music, and a gift or a knack for hearing music, and like being able to like pick up rhythms pretty quickly. I remember when I was a kid, in like band or whatever, in junior high, wanting to play the drums, and I wasn't allowed. I was put in the horn section with the trombone, and the teacher told me, oh, because you've got to take this test. And what I realized later is all the drummers on the drum line were male. And so, I really didn't think much of it, but as I became an adult, the genre or the tradition that really called me was bomba. And I remember in 2000 going to see a group at a conference called Los Pleneros de la 21, and they played bomba. I saw bomba for the first time, and in particular in bomba, there's an interaction with the dancer and the drummer, and it's seen as more like a challenge or a conversation, where the dancer is asking for certain sounds from the drum, and it's improvised in real time, and that drummer is just watching the dancer and has to react to the dancer. And I when I saw that, it just captured my soul. And I remember in 2000 I was living in Texas, and thinking I gotta learn that, and there wasn't any bomba teachers in San Antonio where I lived, and so I started taking other types of music. There was a Puerto Rican teacher, but he taught Cuban music and West African djembe, and so I said, well, I'll do that. That's drums, it wasn't bomba, but that's where I started in 2000, really learning the drum, or even dipping my toe like in the water, so to speak. By fate, luck, destiny, in 2002, I was dating a woman who got accepted to Stanford, and so I made a decision to move out here with her to California, and I connected with a class at La Peña in Berkeley, that taught bomba. In the tradition at that time, primarily the men played the drums and the women danced and sang. And so I didn't want to dance because I've never been a dancer. I've been more of someone who like wants to play. And we're in the Bay Area, where things are a little bit more, I guess sometimes progressive, whatever. And at that time, there were no women playing. I was invited to be an apprentice in the group. It was at that time called Cacique Congo, which was a bomba group here in the Bay Area, directed by Hector Lugo, and Shefali was the dancer, Shefali Shah, the dance teacher. And there was a teacher named Ito Carrillo, who was like the elder here, and he had learned from La Familia Cepeda. I remember learning some of the, like, maraca, some of the minor percussion parts of this tradition, and then starting to learn to drum, and really aspiring to be a primo player, which is the drummer that improvises, that speaks, the drum that speaks, and that has that interaction with the dancer. And so that was around, I guess, 2004 or 5, where I started playing the buleador, which is the accompanying drum, and the cuas and singing, and I, started taking one-on-one lessons with Ito, my teacher. I didn't realize at the time that back then in 2004 or 5, women weren't really playing primo. They were barely even playing buleador. In the Bay Area, there were very few drummers in general for this tradition, for bomba. It was a young kind of community that was growing and people were learning, but there wasn't a lot of people who knew how to play. And so that limited like the community being able to play bomba a lot. And so some of us that were women were like, we want to learn to play, because the men that played in the group were playing salsa, they were playing other things, and they weren't readily available for bombazos or like for community, like, hey, let's get together and play. And I started learning, and some of the women started learning, and that did cause some tensions in the community here. We did this event, I think it was in 2005, at this place that was on Fruitvale and 35th, I believe. It was called the Urban Tea House, and we were gonna do a women bomba jam, where it was just gonna be women coming together and playing bomba, no men. And mind you, I think I was the only one that knew somewhat how to play, maybe a couple of others, but we were just gonna get together and play bomba, and like, didn't matter. And that caused some tension with the men in the group. And we're one small little community doing classes and learning, and it did cause good dialogue, but there was tension because the men were like, well, why are you being divisive? Like, the men would never exclude women. But I think they didn't capture the power dynamic and like the embedded like patriarchy that exists in these traditions that mirror like day-to-day life. So that was a turning point in this community, and from there some of the women, we just started learning and like playing and singing, and from there that developed a group called Las Bomberas de la Bahia that I was the founder of, with a group of women. And then we had an all-women group, and it was to the detriment that my teacher at the time, who learned this tradition through this family, who was very like staunch traditionalist, was like happy teaching me, but wasn't happy about an all-women group, and telling me like, I am not going to keep teaching you if you don't like quit this, because you're the exception. Like, not every woman can play, and like there shouldn't be an all-women group. That's not what this tradition is about. And so I had to make a decision at that time, as someone who was still learning and like very much needed a mentor, to split from my mentor and keep directing and like and learning and growing with this group of women. From there, when I kind of took on the role of being a primo player in training, like a learning drummer, I had to go to Puerto Rico, New York, Chicago, anywhere that there was bomba, that there was a Puerto Rican community and folks who were learning the tradition, to learn from different teachers, because we didn't have the teachers here, or the ones that were here maybe didn't see eye to eye with like the role that women were starting to take in the community. I think sometimes some of the things that happen, some of the things I track or I notice when I'm playing is, one, at first men would always want to give me tips, like, oh, here's how you can play the faster, or hey, do these exercises. And sometimes I didn't know whether to take that as like, oh, they're being collegial, and they're like, or if they were just like kind of being like, hey, like, you gotta step it up, like, here's what you gotta do. When I started learning to play primo, or the lead drum, it just so happened that this woman, Melanie Maldonado, who's like an anthropologist, and has been specifically studying bomba, and documenting bomba, and in particular her stories, like the history of women in bomba. And she was like, are you aware that like no women are playing primo? And since I didn't know outside of California anyone in the bomba tradition, I was like clueless. I was like, no, I know that in this community we don't have women drummers, but we're getting like more women are playing now. And so she kind of helped me to see that in the the general diaspora and in Puerto Rico, women were not playing. I'm talking circa like 2004 or 5. Through there, I met Carolyn and was invited probably around 2009 or 10 to teach at Born a Drum. And that was like its own experience because I had never come in contact with a community of women drummers from so many different traditions, and more importantly, elders that had kind of paved the way for other generations to take the drum and to be fearless about it. So when I met Carolyn, I was thankful that, she kind of brought me and some of the women from our group into this other community that was like opened a whole other like, whoa, there's like Sue and Dwayna Taylor and Mabiba and Suki and all of these Nidia Campos, all of these amazing Annette, all these amazing drummers that play different traditions and that have this community. My teacher now, Jesus Cepeda, who I've been learning with for a few years, is like he's known as El Tambor Mayor, the elder drummer of the bomba tradition. His father, Rafael Cepeda Atiles, is known as the father of bomba, and their family is important in that they're the only family that has maintained the tradition in their family generation through generation, uninterrupted. And I think they're in like 7 generations and counting. And my teacher learned from his family, and my original teacher Ito was not okay with that. Yet when I started talking and learning from Jesus, he was like, if you can play, you can play. Like, we're not, and I thought that was so inspiring, because here you have the elder of the elders of the tradition saying, I want you to learn well and do what you got to do, like really fostering that. I married someone from the bomba tradition, from this family who I met through bomba, Julia Cepeda, my wife. We met in 2013. I got invited to go be part of a performance of women who have contributed to Puerto Rican arts and culture. And for me, it was an honor because I was being recognized by the Centro de Cultura in Puerto Rico for my contributions to bomba, along with other women from the diaspora in Puerto Rico. And that's where I met my wife, Julia. In 2014, we founded Taller Bomba Lele, which is the new kind of ensemble of bomba that I direct. We used to teach at Studio Grand, and now we teach at Rhythmics Cultural Works in Alameda. And so I teach a percussion class for an hour, and then afterwards, Julia teaches a dance class for an hour and a half on Saturdays. In the bomba tradition, I was one of the first women to kind of break that kind of veil, and now there's more women primo players, and now there's tons of groups. There's Bom Pleneras in Chicago, there's Grupo Al Suba now in Puerto Rico, Cimarronas I think is another group, Chicas del Tambor. There's just a lot of groups and a lot of women who are now playing primo. I want to be known as a drummer. I don't want to necessarily be known as oh, she's a woman drummer, even though I want to make sure that place is seen as important, because of the fact that women haven't been offered that space because of misogyny, patriarchy, whatever you want to call it. And I gave myself the personal kind of goal of like, I just want to be seen as a good drummer.